Have you ever felt like you're working tirelessly on yourself, reading self-help books, watching motivational videos, journaling, reflecting, even meditating, yet your life seems unchanged? You feel like you're moving forward, but your external reality doesn't match that inner effort. If this sounds familiar, you might be stuck in something known as intellectual avoidance. It sounds paradoxical. How can learning, growing, and thinking be a bad thing? The truth is, intellectual avoidance is one of the most deceptive forms of procrastination. It makes you feel productive while keeping you comfortably distant from the discomfort of real transformation. You stay in motion without taking action. You accumulate knowledge without risking anything. You believe you're preparing, but you're actually postponing. This script explores the phenomenon of intellectual avoidance in depth. We'll unpack what it is, how it shows up in everyday life, why it's so seductive, and most importantly, how to break free from it. Through real-life examples, psychological insights, and actionable strategies, this 20,000-word guide aims to help you stop overthinking and start doing. Intellectual avoidance is the act of using thinking, analyzing, and learning as a way to avoid actually doing. It disguises itself as preparation, diligence, or curiosity. But in reality, it's a clever form of procrastination. Think of a person standing at the edge of a swimming pool. They've read all the books about swimming. They know the science behind strokes, buoyancy, breathing techniques, and form. They've even visualized themselves in the water. But they never jump in. Why? Because reading feels safe. Swimming is unpredictable. They might fail, look foolish, or feel uncomfortable. And that's exactly what intellectual avoidance helps them dodge. This is what many of us do with self-improvement. We dive into theories and strategies, not because we're deeply committed to change, but because we're afraid of the discomfort that comes with change. We use our intellect to avoid our fears. Self-help books, TED Talks, podcasts, online courses, they all feel like tools of transformation. And they can be, but they can also be traps. You read Atomic Habits, nodding along, highlighting passages. You binge-watch videos on productivity and time management. You listen to podcasts on emotional intelligence during your morning run. But when it comes to waking up early, resisting distractions, or having that tough conversation, you freeze. The brain loves this kind of activity because it releases dopamine. Learning feels rewarding. It tricks us into thinking we're growing, evolving, and achieving, when really we're standing still. Let's get specific. Have you ever read multiple books on relationships but still avoid vulnerability? Subscribed to 10 YouTube channels on entrepreneurship but haven't launched a single product? Spent months researching gym routines without showing up to the gym? These aren't isolated incidents. They're patterns that show how we use learning as a shield from doing. Consider Sarah, a 32-year-old who wants to start a podcast. She's bought the equipment, taken 3 online courses, and even drafted some episode outlines. But she hasn't recorded a single episode. Why? She says she's not ready. She needs to understand the market better. She's still researching ideal publishing times. But deep down, Sarah is scared of judgment, scared of failing, so she hides in preparation. There are psychological reasons behind intellectual avoidance. Our brains are wired for safety. Risk and uncertainty trigger our amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear. Action involves risk, thinking does not. Cognitive biases also play a role. The illusion of explanatory depth makes us feel we understand things better than we actually do. The planning fallacy leads us to underestimate the time and effort needed for future tasks. And the comfort zone bias keeps us engaged in familiar behaviors that feel safe. We also have an emotional connection to our self-image. We want to feel like a person who's improving, evolving, and growing. Learning gives us that feeling, without demanding the vulnerability of action. While intellectual avoidance may protect us from discomfort, it comes at a cost. You may feel mentally stimulated but emotionally unfulfilled. You might find yourself full of ideas but starved for results. This dissonance creates anxiety, self-doubt, and eventually, burnout. Imagine spending years preparing for a life you never actually live. That's the emotional toll of staying stuck in your head. At some point, you start to feel like a fraud. You question your ability to change. And worst of all, you begin to resent the very practices you once loved. You might be caught in intellectual avoidance if, you often say, I just need to learn more before I start. You consume more content than you apply. You revisit the same topics repeatedly without taking action. You feel proud of your knowledge but ashamed of your lack of progress. You set goals based on learning rather than doing. So how do we break free from this loop? It starts with self-honesty. Here's a 5-step strategy. 1. Call yourself out. Ask, am I learning this to gain clarity or to avoid discomfort? 2. Pick less, apply more. Choose one book, one podcast episode, or one course, and live it for 7 days. 3. Set action goals. Instead of learn more about mindfulness, set a goal like meditate for 10 minutes every morning. 4. Let it be messy. Growth is awkward. Embrace imperfection. Take the leap before you feel ready. 5. Feel it, then do it. Reflect, write, journal, but then act. Insight without implementation is empty. Transformation doesn't come from what you know. It comes from what you do with what you know. Build your life around applying your insights. Structure your days with small actions that align with your values. If you've read about boundaries, practice saying no. If you've learned about gratitude, express it out loud. If you've studied goal setting, set one and chase it today, not tomorrow. Let's revisit Sarah, our aspiring podcaster. She finally decided to record her first episode, on her phone, in her closet, with no editing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that imperfect start gave her momentum. Then there's Jamal, who spent 2 years researching online business models. One day he decided to post a single product on Etsy. It sold. Now he runs a successful store, real stories, real actions, real change. The mind is a powerful tool, but it's just a tool. It's not meant to be your whole world. Life happens outside of thought. It happens in conversation, in risk, in vulnerability, in creativity, in effort. Don't just study life. Live it. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you already know but haven't done? Drop it in the comments. That's your edge. That's where the growth is. And if this video helped shift something for you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone stuck in the thinking phase. We're done over preparing. This is the year of action. Let's jump into the pool.